Good evening. Today we have special information of Russia's projected roster with your host Vladimir Putin.
Привет.
Okay, well
That
now
means
we
hello
now
in
we
Russian.
now we got canceled, but it's all
Okay,
good.
so guys, as you guys can see,
We're banned all over Russia.
we are going to be
That's right.
talking
Well, we can't
about
enter the city.
Country,
Country, sorry.
Russia's projected roster, and I just want to start by saying a quote by Drago from Rocky Four, and I'm pretty sure this is what the coach tells his players before they hit the ice. If you do not play good, I will break you.
I'll break you.
So so let's start off with the goalies.
So we're gonna start off with the Russian goalies. Obviously, the starter in net we have Andrei Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky, what we don't really have to say much about him. Two-time Stanley Cup champion, plays on the Tampa Bay
The
Lightning.
clear starter.
One clear starter, one of the best goalies in the league.
Even though you said that Price is better than him,
Which he is,
He
but
is.
but we're not having this discussion today. But anyways,
we'll find that at the Olympics this year.
if Price plays, yeah. But yeah, so Vasilevsky, one of the best goalies in the league, two-time Stanley Cup champion. He's a good goalie. You can't take that away from him. The backup position and even the third goalie position, obviously Sergei Bobrovsky is going to be the guy right behind them.
Especially with that bounce back season he's
And
having.
I think for Russia, they've got a really good goaltending core, right? Bobrovsky, like you said, bounce back season this year. Last year kind of struggled a little bit, even the year before that too.
This is the best since his
People-
time with Columbus.
And people were talking about, this guy's really overpaid. He shouldn't be paid $10 million. I think this year he's proving that he is a $10 million
about time.
goalie. So
Bill
he's playing,
Zito told him, "Yo, wake up, or I'm
That-
buying you off."
that's it, because Spencer Knight's coming down
Or
the
he's
system
sending the
too.
mafia after him.
So I think for Russia with Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky, they're fine. Obviously, they need a third goalie in case there's injuries or whatever. I think they're going to take Igor Shesterkin with them. We all think that they're going to take Igor Shesterkin with them.
Because
But
he's the clear starter of the New York Rangers.
there is a possibility where maybe a guy like Ilya Sorokin could potentially make the
if
team
there's
as well.
injuries, yeah.
So that's what we went for in terms of goaltending. But they're stacked. They're stacked in net.
Georgiev is Russian too, right?
Georgiev is Russian, but he's
Yeah,
the backup
but-
to Shesterkin in New York.
He's a
No, I
clear
know. I'm just
backup.
saying.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if
Well,
ever,
he's-
if ever everyone is
Actually-
injured, he could.
Actually,
still go
Georgiev
down.
is from technically he's from I think it's I think he's Bulgarian. I believe he's Bulgarian, or from Belarus. One of the two. I think
There's some
Bulgaria or
Russians that
Belarus.
live in Ukraine too.
Yeah. So I don't know what the exact nationality is on Georgiev, but I think he is eligible to play for Russia. But obviously, Shesterkin would be the guy, or even Sorokin as that third goalie.
Yeah,
in
and,
Russia.
and if you look at the
Definitely.
top three teams concerning goaltending, it's easily Canada, the States, and Russia. And then all the other teams, they have either one legit goaltender and at most two. But, these three teams that I just mentioned clearly have the best depth when it comes to goaltending. But moving on to the defense, that's a whole different story.
Well, right. One
Yeah,
thing
it's
that
pretty garbage.
one thing that we looked at, right, me
Compared
and
to the
me and
other teams,
Pizzuto, while we were doing this list, while we were making this list, while we were waiting for you to come, we talked about how
was it
stacked.
that late?
Yeah, you were. You're always late.
Okay.
But the forward cores, especially the wingers, they're
Yeah,
very,
stacked.
very stacked wingers from all four lines. Defensively is, I think, their issue. Russia, obviously. But I think with the goaltending that they have, they might be able to get away with it. And that's why I think Russia's a dark horse a little bit, because of how good their goaltending is. I think their goaltending could make up for their defense. However, the top pairing for us, I think it's pretty obvious. Ivan Provorov, fantastic defenseman, really good defenseman. One of my favorite defensemen actually in the league. That's something that not a lot of people know.
When we were making this list, sorry to cut you off.
No, it's all good.
We were looking for pictures, right, to put on this thing,
Yeah.
this lineup.
Yeah.
This guy without a beard and without that flow is completely a different person.
Yeah, he asked.
I was like, does he have a brother that plays on the same team? Like, are they they look completely
yeah, he's like
different?
He's like, those are not the same person. I'm like, bro, it's the same person.
I
He's
like it can't
what
be.
are you talking
It
about?
can't be.
Yeah.
He has a beard. He looks like a lumberjack. In this one, and the other one, he looks more like
To
Evgeny
be honest,
Sveshnikov.
he's looks like a lumberjack, but it's good.
That's what happens
But-
when you spend the whole winter in Russia.
That's it. He just came back.
Just fought a
But
bear.
but no, Provorov, great defenseman, one of my favorite defensemen in the league. I think he's underappreciated at times too. And obviously partnering him, we have Mikhail Sergachev, who again,
two-time Stanley
people
Cup
people
winner.
are gonna talk, and if you're a Habs fan, you obviously have a
No
little bit of
comment.
we have history with Mikhail Sergachev, but at the same time, again for him, two-time Stanley Cup champion,
And he's how
and
old?
I believe he's
24?
24 or
Yeah.
23, one of the two,
Yeah.
and he's still young, and that top two is really interesting with them. The only issue that I have with that top two, they're two offensively minded defensemen that make a lot of mistakes in their defensive zone. That could be costly for them, but we'll see. But I really like that top two for them.
But what
think
I also like about
Sergachev's
Sergachev,
hard hitting defenseman. Is not afraid to
I mean,
put the
they all
ball-
hit hard.
Yeah,
Every single one
the
of
only
them.
one that doesn't hit, and he plays more of a clean game, is Provorov. But having Sergachev there, he doesn't have to worry about hitting because
They're all heavy defensemen. Every single one of them.
That's it.
They're all over 6 feet.
That's it. That's what the Russians
So-
do, bro. They just hit a bunch of people.
But what I like about this is that guys like Romanov and Sergachev that don't get that much playing time or the playing time that they deserve to be playing on their respective teams.
Sergachev gets minutes.
Yeah, but when you're playing behind Hedman and
He's playing
McDonough,
third pairing.
Yeah, but he also gets power play time too.
yeah, but here he's the main guy. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So guys like Sergachev and Romanov are really going to be able to capitalize on having a lot more ice time, and they're going to showcase their abilities. Something that should be done on their respective teams, but unfortunately, they're not utilized properly, in my opinion. I do deserve that. I do think that both these players deserve more ice time, even though in Sergachev's case, he's playing behind guys like McDonough and Hedman. And Romanov, there's no excuse why he's not playing the amount of minutes he's supposed to be playing. So it's going to be nice to see what those two guys are capable of. And Orlov, my God, that guy hits everything in sight. And,
But he's got a little bit of offense too.
He has a little bit of offside,
offside.
Jesus, offensive upside as well. As the years have gone by, I've seen a lot more offensive capabilities from this player. Apart from, when we first saw him enter the league, he was more defensive minded.
And he was more of a hard. He reminded me at the beginning when he first came into the league. He reminded me a little bit more of like Alexei Yemelin.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say that. I was like,
He reminded just the way his play style. He was a guy that would hit. Now he's done a little bit of everything. He can play defense. He's very good defensively, very responsible too.
He really elevated his
He's
game
got a
a
good
lot.
shot. He's got a great shot too. I don't know if you've watched some
Yeah,
Caps
very
games,
underappreciated
but
shot.
guy can shoot the puck.
Yeah, their top four is great.
And
in my
Alex
opinion.
Romanov, I think Romanov's a big one because what I like about this is I think he will get top 4 minutes, and if he doesn't, he'll probably get top 6 for sure. But this is going to be a learning experience for him. And what I like about that is you're putting him next to a defenseman like Dmitry Orlov. And what's going to happen with Romanov if he does play with Orlov is he's going to be able to kind of be free and do what he has to do offensively, right? We know that Romanov, we saw it in the World Juniors a couple of years ago when he was there, how effective he was in the World Juniors and how offensively gifted he was. And obviously we haven't seen it with Montreal yet because of, reasons where the coaching doesn't really use him properly. Anyway, the point is,
Another story
I think,
for another time.
yeah, a story for another day. But the thing is that with Dmitry Orlov being more of a defensively minded defenseman and doing the hits, Romanov can hit players too. We've seen the hits that he's
But he's
made.
more of a two-way.
I think Romanov, he's more of an offensively gifted player who can throw the body.
Yeah.
I think next to Orlov, that's going to be something that if you're playing a Canada or a USA to wear out the opponents, that's going to be what Russia's going to do. They're just going to hit everything that moves, and that top four is doing exactly that.
Now moving on to the third pairing, a controversial pairing.
Third pairing is interesting because we have Slava Voyanov, who, there was a lot of allegations with him back in Russia and whatever. But
wasn't it domestic abuse or something?
Yeah, domestic abuse and whatever. But he's a Stanley Cup champion with LA. And one thing that you can look at this list, a lot of the guys that are on this list, a lot of the guys that we've mentioned are Stanley Cup champions. We've got Sergachev, we've got Vasilevsky, we've got Orlov, and now we've got
Ovechkin.
Slava Voyanov, and Ovechkin and stuff like that too. But what's interesting about Slava Voyanov is he's a good defenseman. The problem is that his controversy off the ice is the reason why he's not in the NHL today.
Yeah.
But he is still a good enough and capable defenseman that he's going to make the Olympic team, and he's good enough that he'll do that. And what's good about Voyanov is he's playing with a guy in Vladislav Gavrikov who is on Columbus, and very good defensively. John Tortorella talked about it last year when he was there as coach, that he was one of the most stable defensemen that he's ever seen, because he's a guy who can, play both ends of the ice, but he's very good defensively and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And I think a guy like him next to Voyanov could help a lot.
See, and by looking at this defensive core, it's a lot of guys that are not capitalized properly on their respective teams, or that are not really showcased enough for us to think that their defensive core
That's
is
it.
good enough. But watch these guys
they're very-
surprise a lot of us during this
But
tournament.
that's why I have them as a dark horse, because their Russia's defense especially is very, very, very.
There's a lot of
underrated.
upside,
They're
a lot of
very
potential.
underrated.
They're basically a wall.
Yeah, exactly.
But
they're-
like
instead of
keep
the
in
great-
mind they're playing against superstar
Yeah.
players.
But instead of being the
So-
Great Wall of China, it's gonna be the Great Wall of Russia.
I like that one. It was good
But,
Yeah.
because the Beijing.
And then we
Olympics, I
have
did that connection.
Nikitai Nestorov, ex-NHL player, and he really elevated his game once he moved to the KHL, has been one of the top defensemen in that league.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, last year he played with Calgary, Nestorov, and he struggled a bit. Like, his return to the NHL wasn't great.
Yeah.
He had a stint with the Canadians too. He was in Tampa as well, but in the KHL he seems to do well. And I think what's going to benefit Russia too is the fact that there's a bigger ice surface. That
Yeah, these guys
typically-
are all used to playing.
That's
there
it.
already,
These
right?
guys typically are used to playing bigger ice surface, and I think that's why it could benefit a lot of the KHL guys like the Voyanovs, like the Nestorovs, who have been there and have played in that league for so many years. Nikita Zadorov's one that I'm a bit. He's just there as an eighth defenseman, in my opinion. Not really much of him that I like, to be honest. He's a hard-hitting defenseman, which is with every Russian defenseman.
Good fantasy player to have on
Right.
your team if
He's
you have
he's
hits.
a guy. He's a guy who, if you want to have like 10 hits a game, he's your guy. But offensively, he doesn't really give you much. I think defensively, he's a liability. But I don't know. I don't know what Russia's going to go with that route. There was also Zaitsev that we talked about.
But we went with Zadorov because he is younger in age, and I think he has. I don't know. I think he's a better complete player when comparing him to Zaitsev.
One guy that we haven't mentioned that I think we should mention, and he's actually not on this list, but I just thought about him now, and I actually kind of surprised that we haven't talked about him. Artem Zub of Ottawa. He's been a guy who I think could be a dark horse player to come into Team Russia. He's been very impressive. He looked really good in Ottawa. Maybe he's the guy that takes over Zadorov's spot in that slot.
He's a puck moving defenseman, right?
Yeah, he's a puck moving defenseman, but he's very good defensively too. I really like what Artem Zub brings to Ottawa. He's a guy that they signed out of the KHL, and he's been playing really well. So
maybe he's overlooked, and then maybe in my case as well, maybe I overlook him because he plays for the Ottawa Senators, so his plus and minus is probably horrendous.
That's it. But he's good. He's underappreciated, I find. But a lot of these guys on the Russia team are underappreciated.
Yeah.
But moving on to the forward core, and we have a controversial pick here. He's currently on the reserve team because we don't know what the situation is with him.
But Eli Kovalchuk.
But there is a rumor out there. There's an article that was written by a Russian reporter, actually, which was in October, that said that Ilya Kovalchuk, who is the GM of the Russian national team, that they are going to try to see if they can get Kuznetsov's suspension with the IIHF revoked in order for him to be eligible to play in the
huge,
Olympics,
especially with the way he's been playing this season.
And so, because of
by the way, are they called Team Russia at the Olympics? Or
they're called ROC. They're
Okay.
not called Russia. They're called the Federation of.
But technically, they
the
are
Russian
Russia.
Federation of whatever of
Technically,
Olympic
they're
Committee.
still
Yeah,
Russia.
no, I was just
Right? Because they're
wondering.
not allowed to be called Russia for doping and whatever. Anyways, Kuznetsov, he's there for if obviously if he makes the team, he's going to be on the top line or the second line, but he's on the reserve team because we're unsure about his status. But we believe that he's eligible to make the team. So we're just
That would
putting
be
him there.
a huge upgrade. Because
That's
if you
it.
look at their center depth right now, it's
Yeah, it's pretty
very
weak.
Yeah,
thin.
it's a bit
It's
weak.
very thin.
And also the other guy that we have as a reserve player, and we could have put a few guys here, but we decided to go with Evgeny Dodonov. He's a guy who's on Vegas. Yes, he's struggled, but he's
His
a guy
NHL
who
experience.
he's got NHL experience, and he's a veteran too, and he's played in the KHL as well, and he's familiar with the Russian team. So I think putting Dodonov there, even if it's a reserve player, he's a guy that could definitely make the team. And also Ivan Barbashev of St. Louis, he's another one there's a lot of conversation about him.
But the
potentially
reason why we
making-
chose Dandanov is because there's a higher upside because he has played with Russia before and he's familiar with these guys.
That's it.
He's been in the NHL and he's done well when he played with the Florida Panthers, with Ottawa, not so much last year, and with Vegas.
That's it.
He's doing decent, and he has experience like you were saying in the KHL. So ideally, he's your pick. But there is like other options, but they're more younger players and inexperienced players. So if they want to take a risk, they can. But because their center depth's like thin, and even their defense is pretty young too. I think they're gonna try to gather as much players with leadership as much as
Yeah.
possible.
I agree with that. And obviously now we move on to the fourth line. Grigorenko, who first round pick from the Buffalo Sabres, didn't really pan out in the NHL. Ended up going to the KHL, is doing really well in the KHL.
Yeah.
He's gonna probably make their fourth line center side. But the two things that I like, and I know Pizzuto likes him a lot. Alex Radulov, who when he was a Canadian,
Sick.
Montreal Canadian,
Very
he
good
was
player.
really fun to watch.
Unfortunately, he's old now.
One thing with Radulov is he also played in the KHL, which is kind of a theme here.
Yeah,
But,
for many Russian players.
but yeah, he was in the NHL. He got drafted by Nashville. Ended up, having disciplinary problems, whatever. And so Nashville was like, "Oh, you know what? We're not going to re-sign you. Potentially go back to his country."
Goes to
So
the
he went.
KHL.
He ended up going back to his country.
Bergevin gives him a chance in
Developed
Montreal.
himself, and now he's here and he's back in
That
the
doesn't
NHL with
offer him a
Dallas.
contract.
And then not from a contract or Markov, but that's besides the point. But anyways, so
It's a
Radulov,
Russian problem in
Radulov,
Montreal.
we believe Radulov's going to make the fourth
Not
line.
anymore though.
We believe Radulov's going to make the fourth line. And what's interesting about Radulov is that he's not a fourth line player, but because of how good Russia's winger depth is, he's going to end up being on the
In my
fourth line.
opinion, I think Russia has the best
Wingers.
wingers
Yeah, for
in
sure.
the
100%.
in this tournament.
And then also next to
Wow.
Grigorenko and Radulov, we have Pavel Buchnevich,
The
who
US has sick wingers too. Sorry.
yeah, but Russia is just another breed, man. They're all
Yeah,
like
true, but-
snipers and like power forwards. It's ridiculous.
they're very, very, very good.
But Canada has
wingers.
McDavid and Crosby and McKinnon.
Yeah,
Those are
I don't. There's
centers.
always been something about
Okay.
Russia. I just like this aggressive style they have.
Russia's very passionate, and they're when it comes to hockey, they're very competitive too. And I think they're going to be a team that's going to give Canada and the States a lot of trouble.
I think they're better than the US. I honestly think so.
defensively, I don't know. but
Defensively, no, but like you said, they have the
Yeah.
goalies to back it up.
that's it.
The goalies,
The US, the
but they
goalies are
they
not looking
They
too
have
good.
weak center depth. That's the problem with
Well,
Russia.
apart from Hellebuck and Gibson, right? But like, if I would rather take Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky over Hellebuck and Gibson.
Yeah,
That's just me.
Buchnevich, fantastic player with the New York Rangers, gets traded, part of that Sammy Blaze deal, heading to St. Louis. Pretty good season so far. Can't really complain.
Pavel Buchnevich, for me, I find he's so underrated.
He is really underrated.
He's very underrated. He's
Very
not a guy
underrated.
who's going to get you like 60 points, 70 points, but he's a guy who does everything right. And he's a guy who,
I like him a lot.
When you need a big goal, I find every time, like even
a very
last year with
clutch
the
player.
Rangers, every time the Rangers needed a big goal, it was Buchnevich. It was him or Kreider. And it was like, wow. Buchnevich would, like, let's say game's tied 2-2, you need a clutch goal. Like you said, he's very clutch. And that's why I think on a fourth line, in a game like an overtime situation for Russia, a guy that could probably get them the winner is a guy like Pavel
Any of these
Buchnevich.
wingers, man, I keep on looking at this projected lineup and these wingers,
Yeah,
man. Like
the wingers are
you
fantastic.
could use any of them, like, and you could rely on them because they're all like legit, like clutch players, man.
And
Yeah,
talking
you're
about the wingers, the third line, we have Pavel Buchnevich's teammate right now, Vladimir Tarasenko, who, if he's healthy, which I think
Fantastic
he's been
player.
healthy. He's been healthy so far this season.
Really good season
If
for
he
him.
stays healthy, man.
Do you think he's playing well because he wants out of St. Louis, or he's trying to garner some value so he can get moved, or do you really think he's just doing it because he's finally healthy
I think
and
he's healthy.
this is
I
like
think
the
he's
type of
healthy.
player
I
that
know
he's
that.
meant
I
to
know
be?
that
Oh,
people-
does he still want to leave?
Well, now the trade talks a little bit have cooled off, but he did ask for a trade during the summer.
But come on, let's be honest
'Cause
here.
they're
You have
playing well now.
Buchnevich that
Yeah,
should
and
bring.
he's playing well.
You have Buchnevich that should bring in your fellow Russian
Teammate
teammate.
or compatriot, whatever.
So that it's like, why leave? You got your Russian buddy. You're playing on the same line. You're doing well. Both of you are talented. Like,
But
why leave?
I think Tarasenko wanted to leave. There was the rumor was that he wanted to leave because the medical team didn't with the 2 surgeries that he had on his shoulder.
That's
right,
but that's
it
an
screwed
NHL
him.
problem,
No,
to
I
be
know.
honest.
But what I'm saying is I'm glad that Tarasenko's healthy because when he's healthy, he's one of the best players in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's gonna be play. We have him next to Vlad Nemestikov, who
The
look,
man that follows
Great season as well.
he's playing.
Steve
he's,
Yzerman everywhere.
Yeah, he's follows Steve Yzerman everywhere. That's true, but also
Yeah.
he's been good for Detroit this season. He's impressed me a lot.
I always thought he was a solid guy.
With
Yeah,
the
but
Rangers,
he's not-
he kind
he's
of
not-
He was good in Tampa. He was
kind of
good in
not the Rangers. Rangers, he kind
the
of fell
Rangers
out.
probably
He
not,
struggled.
but Detroit seems to be the spot for him. He had a stint in Ottawa too, I believe.
Yeah.
Nemestikov.
Yeah, that was decent.
And
Really
but
found his footing in
he's not
Detroit.
he's not a top 6 forward, but he's a guy who can play on your top 9, and that's why I think he's there on the right. I think on the third line.
Having a
role, he
great
could
season
work.
in Detroit.
And obviously next to him we have Kirill Kaprizov,
The
who's
Calder
one of the-
winner.
Calder winner, and one of the most talked about players in the league. One of the most enjoyable players to watch in the league. He's gonna kill it. I think he's gonna have
The
a sick
face of the
Olympic.
Minnesota Wild.
Face of the Minnesota. But I'm telling you, man, one guy that we're gonna. I know we have Ovechkin and Panarin on this list and Kucherov. One guy to look for in the Olympics, Kaprizov. I'm so excited to see how.
Bro, I
he's
can't
gonna
get
do.
over these wingers. Like I'm in love
Kaprizov.
right now.
I have a feeling Kaprizov is just gonna tear everybody
Like if
apart.
Canada doesn't do well, I already know who I'm going for. It's
You're going for
Russia.
Russia?
Yeah, 100%. It's always
I'm
really
more
been
of
like
a I'm
that.
more of a Finland kind of guy.
I'm a Sweden guy. I love
That's
Sweden.
because Sako Koivu and Timo Solani.
But anyways,
Bro, for me, it's
well,
easy.
as long as we don't,
Style
as long as we
Russia
don't say the
plays, I
states,
love it.
as long
Like
as we don't say the
snipers.
states, we're okay. But that's how I.
Yeah,
that's
let's go to the second line.
the second line. I know you guys, a lot of you guys that maybe don't watch hockey or don't follow the KHL as much, whatever. The guy at center is a guy named Vadim Shipachev.
Shipachev.
He was signed by the Vegas
Vodka.
Golden Knights
Didn't
a
pan
couple of
out.
years ago. Played 3 games for them. Didn't pan out. Had a lot of problems. Ended up going back to the
3
KHL.
games. Come on, what a
Yeah,
what a waste.
and had a goal too during those 3 games, which was funny. But he's a KHL monster. He's been very good in the KHL. He's one of the most appreciated players in the KHL. He's the leading scorer in
and
the
there's a good chance
KHL.
he may come back to the NHL.
That's it. And there's a chance he may come back to the NHL. And he's a really good player. I've watched him play a few games. I've seen some highlights on him on YouTube. He's a really good, skillful.
I was about to ask you, do you have
centerman.
the channel to watch KHL games?
I
Like,
don't
what's
have the
going
channel
on?
to watch KHL games, but I've seen highlights of him, and I've watched highlights of the KHL games on YouTube and whatever, and I've paid attention to him, and he looks pretty good. And obviously, we have next to him, we have Andrei Svechnikov, one of the most highly touted players in the league, one of the most appreciated players in the league.
All these guys have fantastic shots. Whether if it's a
Carolina-
fantastic slap
Carolina
shot or his shot,
loves-
the puck is going in the
loves,
net.
yeah, but Carolina loves Svechnikov.
I love
He's been
Svechnikov.
fantastic. A guy that
Someone else loves his brother.
no comment, guys. No comment. No comment. And then obviously next to both of them we have
the man himself,
we
Mr. Panarin.
we have Artemi Panarin, who Chris Pizzuto actually said at the beginning of the season that he was going to win the Hart Trophy.
It's coming. It's coming.
So
He's the face
Hard-
of our thumbnowll in that video, so you can
That's
check
it,
that
so-
out.
So there you go. But Artemi Panarin,
If he doesn't go missing in the next couple weeks, he'll
that's
be
it.
playing
That's
in
it.
the
If
Olympics.
he doesn't talk about Russian politics, and
Do
just
you think
focuses on playing-
Putin may like have a say and be like, "Yo, I don't want Panarin on this team"?
That's what they were saying. They were saying that
Mm.
there may be a situation where Putin might be like,
I don't want to
get
represent
Radulov out
Russia.
and get Panarin.
Even
out. Yeah, there
Radulov?
was Radulov too. That apparently.
You do that, you destroy the chances of winning the
Absolutely.
gold medal.
Absolutely.
Is he really gonna do something about it?
Come
I
on,
don't
The
know.
guy's got a lot of pride about his country. No, he wants.
Yeah,
them to
but I
win.
think
If he knows that they
Yeah, but if maybe
I don't
he's
know.
like, you know what, like they don't respect me, so like I don't respect them. I'm
That's
not
it.
gonna, like,
maybe
be
who
moving
knows?
them.
Maybe he'll be the.
But then you're jeopardizing
better
the
man
team
and put it
after.
That's
away.
it. You're jeopardizing the team, but I think Artemi Panarin is going to make the team. It's
100%. You
there's
do
no
that,
way.
you're dumb.
We shouldn't
It'd be-
talk about these things. We're probably bugged now.
That's it. That's over.
No, I have no
Putin's
I have
gonna
no problem
Putin's
with
sending his guys.
I have no problem with Russian
Damn,
politics
the
or whatever.
KGB is
Everyone
coming.
has the right
But-
to their own opinion, their own views.
but-
You know, I just hope that they make the right decision here, and if they really want to win, they put politics aside and they go with the best
That's it.
available
Best
team
players.
possible. And this is the best available team, in my
and
opinion.
our top line and my favorite line, and the reason why it's my favorite line is because honestly, the GOAT is on the line, and I don't give a shit what anybody says.
The best goal scorer of all time.
Ovechkin is the best goal scorer of all time.
Yes, sir.
And this guy is 36 years old and scoring goals like he's playing
coming
on
for
his prime.
Gretzky's record. He will
Ovechkin.
beat it.
Ovechkin's playing like prime Ovechkin right now. It's not normal. It's actually not normal.
He's playing like he's
Every-
like 24 years old
Every
again.
Caps game, I watched the Caps game against I think it was against Florida when he had a hat trick against Spencer Knight or whatever. The guy played like Ovechkin looks like he's 20 years old and he just started his career. He looks like a guy who's scoring goals for fun. It doesn't make any sense. The guy's 36 years old and he doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon.
And if you look at his season last year, it was
ridiculous.
his worst season in his career, and
Now he's
due to injuries as well and COVID, and there were so many things that affected his season in the Washington Capitals season. And you look at him this year, and it's like, holy crap, man! This guy's back with like vengeance, and like he's gunning for Gretzky's record.
I'm not kidding. I honestly think he might hit 60 this year. He might hit 60 goals. this
He
year.
will beat
He's on pace
Gretzky's
for that.
record. He will.
He's ridiculous. Ovechkin's
He
on
has,
another
he has,
level.
he has how many goals until
think
he
he's at
reaches
20 right
Gretzky?
now.
No, until he reaches Gretzky's.
He's got like about 130 something left.
That's doable. I mean,
He's gonna do it.
Well,
Come
he signed a
on.
5-year contract with the Caps.
He's
Yeah,
gonna do
yeah,
it.
he's
It's
gonna
done.
do it.
Ovi will be the. I mean, he already is the best goal scorer of all time, but he will like cement himself.
100%. Next to him, we have Evgeny Malkin. Now, Malkin's a little bit of a controversial one. The reason why he's controversial is because
He's
he hasn't
injured.
played a game yet this year. But Malkin, when he's healthy, is still the best option they
Is
have
he
at center.
practicing? Like, what is he doing?
I don't
right
even
now?
know. But
Where is this
if
guy?
he's healthy, which I think he will be by the time the Olympics start, he might get a chance to play for Team Russia. So that's why we have him there. And next to him, we have Kucherov, who's currently also injured, but
Both these guys will be there.
right, they'll both be there.
Whether
and
if they're
Kucherov-
100% or not, they're both going to be there.
Kucherov's one of the best players in the league. He's going to be there.
When it's time to
So-
represent your country, especially a very prideful country, when it comes to Russia, they will do anything
100%.
possible to be there to represent their country, whether if they're injured or not, and they're gonna work through it because that's just the way they are, and that's why I respect Russia's team because they're hardworking, and even though they do choke sometimes, I think this is the best Russian team we're gonna see overall.
Well, I don't know about
In the
all.
last
I don't
couple
know.
of
You're
years.
missing Datsuk.
Yeah, Datsuk's 43. But I remember the old Russia teams. They used to have Kovalchuk,
Yeah.
Datsuk. Those guys were
We're
big
talking
players.
about like since like 2010. I'm talking about. In the
Well,
last
yeah,
10
since
years.
the last
Yeah,
Olympic
yeah.
roster, it's going to be tough. But a lot of the guys too have left, right? Andrei Markov used to be on the Team Russia team too.
But
He's
Russia's
no
defense was
longer
always
there.
weaker.
Yeah, that's true. But they play a certain style that ends up because for
In
some reason,
2014, their defense
they have-
wasn't. I think their defense is better now than it was
what's
in 2014.
crazy about Russia is they have Canada's number. They're always very good against Canada.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, Russia for me, they're my dark horse. If there's one team that I think could be a dark horse and can win the whole thing, it's Russia.
I'm
in my
looking
opinion.
forward to this tournament and seeing
Yeah.
what they're capable of doing, and I'm hoping a lot of those defensemen, those young defensemen that are that have a lot of upside and do have a lot of potential,
Yeah.
are able to showcase
Absolutely.
what they have, And we want to hear your thoughts. Do you guys agree with our picks? Is there anybody we left out? Do you think there's certain people like Kuznetsov and Malkin that we mentioned that will not make the team due to controversy and injury, even Voinov? We want to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video. Check out our other videos concerning the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. We already have US up and we have Canada up. Up next, we have Finland and Sweden, and we're going to be continuing this leading up to February when the 2022 Winter Olympics begins. And thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one.